Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I often get questions about how fertility yoga differs from regular yoga and how you as yoga teachers can modify your classes so that they're suitable for women who are trying to conceive, or even how to run a fertility specific class. So if you are interested in this, I'm really excited to announce that later this year I am releasing my fertility yoga teacher training. So this teacher training is going to be fully comprehensive. So you will learn what yoga poses and practices, breathwork, meditations to do throughout the different stages of the cycle to maximize fertility, but we'll also go into the IVF process as well, how you can support women with yoga during the IVF process, and how you can modify your yoga classes so that you're meeting the needs of all of the individuals in your class. If you are interested in learning more about teaching fertility yoga, I'll leave a link below for a free guide that I've created for you. So I recommend downloading that one to get started. So at the heart of it, fertility yoga really honors the feminine cycle. So whereas often our yoga classes change via style, for instance, you have a power flow class or a vinyasa class, and you have a hatha class, an iyengar or ashtanga, so the different styles of yoga, or even more recently things like restorative yoga and yin yoga have become really popular. So you're kind of picking the class based on the style of yoga that you're looking for. Whereas fertility yoga changes depending on the individual woman, which can be quite challenging if you're teaching a room full of women all in different stages. But I think that's a really beautiful thing about a fertility yoga class is that encourages you to keep your class small so you don't have too many women to cater for. But there's also that sense of connection because we are sharing where we're at in our menstrual cycle. And that's a really important part of fertility yoga, in that you as a teacher know where the women are at, but also that we kind of free up this room to talk about it, because when you're trying to conceive and it's not going so well, you think a lot about your cycle, but perhaps there's no one in your actual life who wants to hear about it. So the space that we create in a fertility yoga class allows us to talk about some of this stuff that in other areas of our lives is quite taboo. So like I said, you are catering for the different stages of the cycle. So we honor that energy that naturally occurs in the body during these stages. So in menstruation, the body needs deep rest, and we often don't get that. And if you don't set yourself up at the start of the cycle with that rest and that self-care that you need, often the rest of the cycle gets a bit out of whack as well. So we often find when women come along to a yoga class who've been doing high intensity exercise that their cycle is all out. And just by changing that one stage, just by introducing really nurturing practices into menstruation, taking the time to rest, doing some really gentle yoga, often the rest of the cycle becomes more regular, and then the fertility issues that are caused by irregular cycles often even out as well. Once menstruation is finished, the energy starts to build again, so we can honor that throughout the spring or the pre-ovulation, starting to twist it out a little bit. Twists at this time can be really nice just to kind of wring the body out, really letting that old cycle go. And then heading towards ovulation, which is really the peak of our energy. That's when all our energy is outward and giving, but also at this time we want to turn that energy inwards because we're obviously trying to create a baby if we're coming to a fertility yoga class. So we don't want to give all of that energy away. We want to direct some of it internally so that we can hopefully create a baby within. So that's another thing that fertility yoga does, is it starts to ask us to address where are the imbalances and are we being too giving outwardly, and we need to turn some of that energy inward. In a yoga class, it can be really nice to use visualization and meditation at this time to really imagine that space within your body, to connect with that part of you and to consciously send your energy there. And then during the 2-week wait, or what is sometimes referred to as our autumn, we might be feeling premenstrual, we might be feeling highly stressed about the fact that are we pregnant, are we not pregnant, really sort of in this holding pattern where we don't know what to do. And fertility yoga at this time, God, it was a godsend for me during my struggles. It just helped me kind of come into my body, to really center myself and to not feel so like everything was out of my control and I desperately wanted to do something. So fertility yoga practices at this time usually start to slow down again. Remember, we're on the downside from that high peak of energy at ovulation. Of course, all our yoga at this time is going to be suitable for pregnancy because we're hoping that's what women are at this time. If you are going to teach fertility yoga, I really recommend that you do some research into the stages of the menstrual cycle and what is recommended on an energetic level in each of the stages. So learning what the key energy is of that time and how to really honor and respect it through your yoga practice. So there are certain poses that we wouldn't do in specific times. Like we don't do any twisting during menstruation. We don't want any compressed twistings, especially in the 2-week wait, because obviously that's contraindicated for pregnancy. We don't want any compression on the belly during the 2-week wait, whereas in pre-ovulation, you can do a little compression and it can be really helpful because it's going to help flush those parts of the body out. So just like when a sponge is released of all its water and then you let it go in water, it will soak it all back up. That's what we're doing in a yoga practice with the various organs of the body. So that's why it's important for you to learn which poses you can and can't do throughout the different stages of the cycle so that you can modify your classes depending on who shows up and where they happen to be in their cycle. I know it might sound like a lot at this point. You might be thinking, how am I going to do that in a busy class? It definitely is possible. Just like when we teach pregnancy yoga and we modify for the different trimesters, it's often best just to pick a more gentle class. Then you'll be able to weave those poses and practices that are really specific to different stages in amongst what is already a beautiful, gentle, restorative fertility yoga class. As yoga teachers, you already have one of the best skills that you can give your students who are going through a fertility journey, and that is the ability to come down from stress. Yoga teachers are typically experts in stress and the nervous system, and that's essentially the biggest gift that fertility yoga gives students. It's these practices and these poses that we can do to come into the body, to get out of the head and to stop that monkey mind jumping around and to really just be present with the body. Because when you're trying to conceive, that's what you really need to do. Come into the body, allow yourself to de-stress and focus. And in that space, you're often able to make really good choices about what you need to do for your fertility. Whether that be that you need to clean up your diet, whether you need to detox some of the chemicals in your home, whether you need to change your sleeping practices, whether you need to adjust your exercise, whether you need to go and see a medical professional to find out more information or to be assisted in reproduction. Whatever ends up happening in a woman's fertility journey, being a yoga teacher, you already have the skills to offer them so much at this time. So I really recommend, if fertility yoga is something that interests you, we definitely need more of it in this world. There are a lot of people who are going through these journeys who have absolutely no support, and a local fertility yoga class to them can honestly be a lifesaver at this stage. If you are interested in knowing more about fertility yoga teacher training, the links will be below. I would love to share these practices with you because I honestly believe they're going to help so many of your students in your classes. Thank you again for being here. If you have any specific questions you want to ask about fertility yoga, feel free to ask them in the comments below. Namaste.